Bringing the full force of nature to bear, this spellcaster is not to be trifled with. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Elementalist, the natural wrath of Tyria. Calling upon fire, water, air, and earth, the Elementalist summons natural forces to devastate enemies and support allies. Unlike other professions, Elementalists do not have access to weapon swapping. Instead, these skilled magic users swap elements to fit the need of any given moment. Fire Attunement offers heavy burst damage and burning. Water Attunement brings chilling effects, healing, and cleansing. Air Attunement brings powerful strike damage, vulnerability, and crowd control. And finally, Earth Attunement, which offers great defenses, protection, and superior damage over time via bleeding. While each of these attunements offer new abilities, each time you switch from one attunement to the next, it incurs a small cooldown before you can access the previous attunement again. Elementalists have 5 base utility skill types that offer versatility in any situation. Arcane skills are instant cast and typically cause critical damage. Cantrips are defensive abilities which have no cast time. These include Lightning Flash, which allows you to teleport a short distance, or Mist Form, which breaks hard crowd control and allows you to become invulnerable for a few seconds. Skilled Elementalists also have the ability to conjure magical weapons for themselves and allies that offer a new way to combat foes, such as the defensive Earth Shield, or the elite weapon, the Fiery Greatsword. Glyphs are skills that are as adaptable as the Elementalists themselves, with each of their abilities changing depending on the attunement. Glyph of Storms can summon a blinding sandstorm when attuned to Earth, and it can summon a powerful lightning storm when attuned to air. Signet skills offer passive effects and can be activated to offer significantly stronger effects. When the signet is used, however, it will put the passive effect on cooldown until it comes back up. For example, Signet of Restoration heals you each time that you use an ability, and then heals you a large amount when used. Each one of the trait lines focuses heavily on a particular attunement. For instance, Fire Specialization will offer increased damage and burning, while Water Specialization will focus on healing and cleansing. The most unique specialization is the Arcane line, that offers boons and powerful effects, especially when attuning to different elements. A sample build trait line for leveling would be Water, Fire, and Arcane specializations that offer a great deal of healing as well as damage over time. Full link in the description below. The Elementalist has access to a handful of weapons, most at medium and close range. The furthest is the Staff. The Staff is a safe and great place to start, as it offers a wide variety of area of effect skills while keeping your enemies at a distance. The main hand Scepter sacrifices some range to give both single and multi-target abilities higher amounts of damage. The main hand Dagger emphasizes up-close and personal combat, sacrificing even more range to ramp up those damaging abilities. The Offhand Dagger provides a mix of offensive and defensive abilities, focusing mainly on defense, while the Offhand focus gives supportive and defensive area of effects for your team. As a new player, the Staff is recommended to learn the basics, while Dagger Main Hand Dagger Offhand, also known as Dagger Dagger, is the hardest to learn. However, it deals the most amount of damage out of any weapon combos. In player versus environment settings, knowing what specific abilities are about to be used, meaning they are typically telegraphed, allowing you to move out of the way or switch to water or earth attunements to protect and heal you. In player versus player, knowing what the other professions are capable of is extremely important, but realizing what you can do with your own damaging combos and skills will help separate beginners and elite elementalists. As an elementalist, you are very lacking in defense and health, but making up for it, you bring a great amount of heavy damaging abilities and slippery movement skills that level the playing field. Core Elementalists can and should calculate when the best time to engage would be, as mistiming this will put you down. The Core Elementalist has access to 3 separate elite specializations: the Tempest, the Weaver, and the Catalyst. They are each tied to a specific expansion and will be covered in a later video. Whether in combat with players or dragons, the Elementalist is the most versatile caster in Tyria, and is one that shouldn't be taken lightly. Whether the problem is ghosts or dragons, this clever hero always has the solution. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Engineer, the mechanical genius. The Engineer, being able to adapt to any situation, utilizes a tool belt. This tool belt gives a unique ability based off of the skills you choose. Changing the skill will change the tool belt ability. These abilities vary from on-the-spot heals, stealth, and instant damage that allows the Engineer to specifically conquer any foe in their way. The Engineer's utility skills reflect their genius as they include elixirs, engineering kits, gadgets, and turrets. Elixirs provide powerful boons, cleansing conditions, and even breaking crowd control. Elixir C turns all of your conditions into boons, while the powerful Elixir X will turn you into a deadly tornado or a rampaging brood. Gadgets emphasize utility devices that assist with either mobility or enemy displacement, like the explosive rocket boots or the life-saving AED, which while active will let you die and then bring you back to life. Turrets are unique as they require 0 micromanagement and automatically attack and damage enemies. The only thing that you can do with them is detonate them, which deals strong damage in an area and puts the turret on a cooldown. Weapon kits are the most unique attribute about the Engineers, as this is where their versatile nature comes to light. These weapon kits offer a brand new set of weapon skills that deal incredibly strong single target damage as well as powerful AoE. Also, the Engineer can swap in and out of these without a cooldown. However, the abilities for the weapon kit have their own individual cooldowns, include the flamethrower that burns and blinds enemies, as well as the powerful mortar kit that deals significant damage at a very large distance. Being the mechanical genius, the Engineer's traitlines focus heavily on explosives, tools, alchemy, and other feats of their intelligence. The explosives trait line gives your entrances the bang they deserve, as it focuses on increasing strike damage and enhancing anything that goes boom. The firearms trait line has an emphasis on critical hits and heavy condition damage, or damage over time. The inventions trait line is geared towards defensive and supportive traits that focus on healing the Engineer and their allies. Alchemy looks to enhance the boons and the effects from the elixirs that the Engineer utilizes. Also, this trait line has a number of defensive abilities that trigger on their own when the Engineer is in danger. Lastly, the Tools trait line enhances weapon kits and tool belt skills along with endurance regeneration, which you use to dodge roll out of danger. The sample leveling build is in the link description below. Engineers do not have access to weapon swapping, as they can utilize their many kits to make up for this shortcoming. Their base weapons are the rifle, the pistol main hand, the pistol offhand, or the shield offhand. The rifle is an excellent starting point for beginning Engineers, as they have a very long range, high damage, and a wealth of crowd control and mobility. The pistol main hand offers great conditions such as bleeding, poison, and confusion. Pistol offhand complements an offensive condition damage build by adding burning as well as an immobilizing effect. Offhand shield leads a more defensive route, which is perfect for those Engineers who like to play a little bit more conservatively. Rifle is the best for beginners as it has a wealth of damage, crowd control, and mobility, while pistol main hand and pistol offhand focuses more on condition damage at the sacrifice of mobility and defensives. Double pistol should be taken as the Engineer becomes more confident with their abilities. In open world, core Engineers should focus on their control to handle enemies as they come by. using powerful net shot or overpowered shot to keep enemies at a distance while the rifle turret whittles down the enemy. Once an enemy finally reaches you, you finish them off utilizing the grenade kit for powerful effects and damage. In instance PvE content, maximize the powerful AoE damage that the engineer brings to the table in either the grenade kit or the mortar kit, which will make quick work of clustered enemies. Core engineers are not the strongest within melee range of enemies. Their strength lies in mid to far range, utilizing their amazing tools to bring the boom. In PvP Conquest, utilize the great range of abilities such as mortar kits, rifle shots, to hit multiple enemies at the same time while they are attempting to capture a node. When you are focused, use escape tools such as rocket boots or Elixir S to get out of harm's way. When a major teamfight is about to start, opening with a supply drop or an Elixir X to disrupt the enemy team before they can establish control over a node. Again, don't be afraid to use your defensives, as you are durable, but every clever genius has their limits. The engineer has 3 separate elite specializations tied to each individual expansion. For Heart of Thorns, there's the Scrapper. For Path of Fire, there is the Hollowsmith. And for End of Dragons, there is the Mechanist. These will be covered in a later video. Engineers can solve any predicament they come across through their powerful inventions and explosive way of life. While they bring the bang, they also have quite strong utility to support themselves and allies, and are a welcome addition to any squad. Core engineers should always have an escape that creates distance between them and enemies, so that their turrets and superior range damage can be maximized. While not able to combat many foes at once, they do shine when multiple enemies can be hit with their deadly weapons. Engineers just need a chance, and they can show how explosive they can be. Keeping the faith and punishing the non-believers, this symbolic defender will bring balance to Tyria. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Guardian, the Stalwart Protector. Morality and principles drive this soldier to great deeds. The virtues of justice, courage, and resolve are their guiding stars. Justice smites enemies with burning convictions. Resolve heals wounds of the Guardian and their allies. Courage blocks and defends from enemies' attacks. These virtues offer the effect passively, but when activated, offer a stronger version of the effect immediately. The Guardian offers 5 different skill categories, mainly focusing on defensives and ally protection. The skills are Consecrations, Meditations, Shouts, Signets, and Spirit Weapons. Consecration skills bring strong defensive area of effect abilities, such as Wall of Reflection, which redirects enemy ranged abilities back towards them. Or Purging Flames, that burn enemies that are within range while cleansing conditions from allies. Meditation skills offer great mobility, condition cleansing, and even invulnerability. Judge's Intervention teleports to an enemy and burns them, while Renewed Focus recharges all of the virtues while making you invulnerable to damage for 3 seconds. Shout skills allow Guardians to provide powerful boons to their allies while also healing and cleansing. Stand Your Ground gives stability to allies, making them immune to crowd control effects. Or Receive the Light, which heals you and allies in a cone in front of you. Signets offer immense versatility between their passive and active effects, such as the Bane Signet, that passively increases power and the active ability can knock down the enemy. Or Signet of Courage, which passively heals allies nearby, but when activated and fully channeled, can completely heal all nearby friendlies. Unique to Guardians are the Spirit Weapons. Spirit Weapon skills summon ghostly weapons to assist the Guardian in combat, like the Hammer of Wisdom, which after a delay will knock down enemies, or the Bow of Truth, which will fire a volley of healing arrows for the Guardian and its allies. The Guardian's trait lines focus heavily on enhancing their profession mechanic, the virtues. The Zeal trait line increases damage, vulnerability, and offensive skills. Radiance increases burning, critical hits, and resolution uptime, supported mainly by the Justice virtue. Valor supports the Courage virtue, focusing on blocking and toughness, while Honor is centered around Resolve, healing and dodging. Lastly, the Virtues trait line focuses on enhancing all of the virtues and resolution uptime. Sample leveling build in the link below. The Guardian has access to multiple offensive and defensive weapons, and also the ability to weapon swap in combat. The two-handed weapons that they can use are the Greatsword, the Hammer, and the Staff. Main hand weapons include Mace, Scepter, and Sword, while off-handed weapons are the Focus, the Shield, and the Torch. The Greatsword is an incredibly strong offensive weapon focused on area of effect and controlling enemies. The Hammer is more of a defensive weapon, with knockdowns and knockback abilities. The Staff is supportive and capable of healing allies and warding off enemies. The main hand Mace is a supportive weapon that can heal allies and block incoming attacks, while the Scepter is a ranged, damaging weapon that looks to control enemies and make them vulnerable. The Sword is an aggressively balanced weapon that offers great mobility and range deflection. The Focus balances out offensive options with self-defensive abilities, while the Shield is a strong defensive offhand by blocking projectiles and applying Aegis to allies. The Torch is an incredibly strong offensive weapon that can burn enemies and cleanse allies. Generally, the Greatsword paired with a Mace Shield are great for beginners, as the Greatsword gives incredible damage while the Mace and the Shield offer plenty of defensive options for the Guardian to thrive on. As the Guardian grows in strength, the Greatsword paired with the Sword and Focus offers a more balanced skill set, keeping the pressure on enemies and blocking incoming attacks. Open world Guardians have plenty of options to optimize their gameplay and handle any threat that the enemies can bring. Their wealth of healing, cleansing, and protection make them incredibly durable. In PvE content, Guardians shine in the support role with their wealth of healing, condition cleansing, and defensive abilities. Core Guardian has remained a staple in most content. In PvP, Guardians dominate many different roles. Whether it is burning Core Guardian or support, they are capable of handling plenty of different situations. Their mobility through interventions and their passive ally support make it difficult to bring them down, even while they are out pressuring you. Of course, they are not invincible, and like other professions, bad positioning will make you go down quickly. The Guardian has 3 elite specializations, each tied to a specific expansion. The Heart of Thorns features the Dragon Hunter, Path of Fire features the Firebrand, and the End of Dragons features the Willbender. These will all be covered in a future video. Guardians have made a name for themselves throughout Tyria by protecting those they care for and smiting those who dare threaten to harm them. Guardians are at their best when they are leading the charge, because a Guardian never retreats. Summoning the dark forces of Shadow to do their bidding, these unholy casters draw life from their enemies to become powerful avatars of death. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Necromancer, the Ravaging Death. The Necromancer's profession mechanic is Death Shroud, a strong offensive form that allows the Necromancer to greatly increase their damage but also protects them from incoming damage. This protective shield slowly deteriorates while in this form. Once the shield is depleted, the Necromancer returns to their normal state. While in Death Shroud, the Necromancer can steal life from nearby enemies to extend the shroud longer. Necromancers have access to 5 sets of utility skills, many of which are unique specifically to them. They have Corruption, Signets, Wells, Spectral, and Minions. Corruption skills are a double-edged sword. They apply powerful conditions to enemies, however they also inflict conditions to the Necromancer. Blood is Power, which inflicts bleeding to give might to the Necromancer and their nearby allies. Or the elite skill, Plague Lands, which inflicts a number of harmful conditions while also causing bleeding to the Necromancer. Signet skills offer solid passive and powerful active effects, such as Signet of Vampirism, which draws life force from nearby enemies, and when activated, heals the Necromancer and marks a foe, which allies can continue to strike to heal as well. Wells offer powerful damaging area of effects, as well as strong benefits for allies, such as Well of Blood that heals allies, or Well of Darkness that pulses blinding conditions. Another unique skill set to the Necromancer is the Spectral Utilities that improve life force generation and powerful offensive and defensive cooldowns, like Spectral Walk, which allows you to remove condition and tethers you to the start point. Reactivating the tether will teleport you back to that starting point. Or the elite skill Lich Form, which transforms you into a powerful Lich, increasing precision and vitality, while also giving incredible life force generation. A trademark of the Necromancer profession is the minion utility skills. These focus heavily on summons and damaging creatures, like the Summon Bone Fiend, which creates a Bone Lashtail Devourer to attack enemies at range, while also periodically crippling them. Or the Flesh Golem, which can charge enemies, knocking them down and away. The 5 trait lines that the Necromancers have access to are Spite, Curses, Death Magic, Blood Magic, and Soul Reaping. The Spite trait line is offensive and improves power damage as well as applying vulnerability. The Curses trait line focuses on conditions and increasing the damage of those conditions as well as improving critical hits. Death Magic is more oriented to defenses, toughness, and condition protection. Blood Magic improves the support capabilities of the Necromancer by improving healing, life stealing, and even being able to revive allies. Soul Reaping aims to supercharge the Death Shroud profession mechanic, as well as life force generation. Sample leveling build linked below. The Necromancer has access to a variety of weapons that fit the need of this Dark Caster. They can use the Staff, Axe, Dagger, Scepter. Offhand, they can use the Dagger, Focus, or Warhorn. The Staff utilizes long range to mark areas for powerful conditions and ally support. The Axe rips into enemies at medium range, while Dagger steals enemies' health at close range. The Scepter applies a number of conditions at long range for devastating effects. Offhand Dagger weakens enemies and can transfer conditions from the Necromancer to them. The Focus makes enemies vulnerable, it applies chills, and can even remove boons. The Warhorn can rip into enemies with vicious locusts, or fear them away with the Whale. As a start, Axe and Focus paired with the Staff works well for beginners, offering a number of different damaging abilities and control, even some healing. As the Necromancer grows in power, they can switch to utilizing the Scepter Dagger offhand with a Staff to offer powerful conditions and control. Necromancers are incredibly durable thanks to their Shroud ability, which acts as a powerful DPS cooldown and an extra health bar. Paired with minions to distract enemies, most Necromancers are able to handle powerful enemies in open world with ease. In group content, Necromancers can thrive as damage dealers through their massive amounts of conditions and aggressive minions. In PvP, core Necromancers still offer a ton of viability and is an excellent place for new players to start. Their strong defenses, Shroud, and mobility make them a decent pick. The Necromancer has 3 elite specializations, each one tied to a specific expansion. The Reaper for the Heart of Thorns, the Scourge for the Path of Fire, and the Harbinger for the End of Dragons. These each will be covered in a future video. Utilizing the powers of life and death, this caster can handle nearly any situation thrown its way. The abundance of healing, damage, and survivability, utilizing the corpses of their fallen enemies, make for a grisly but effective show of dominance of these forces. Leaping from the shadows and executing their mark before fading out of sight, these elusive acrobats are the epitome of stealth. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Thief, the Unseen Assassin. The Thief's profession mechanic is twofold. The active ability is Steal, where the Thief shadow steps to their target and steals an item from them. Then, a secondary skill will appear, depending on what item was stolen. These items appear in bundles. For instance, stealing from a Moa will give you an egg that can be consumed to heal yourself, or feathers, which will blind the target and apply stealth. The secondary mechanic is initiative. Thieves' active weapon abilities have no cooldowns, however they function on a resource system. Each ability used costs initiative and can be used until there is insufficient initiative. The resource will replenish at a rate of 1 initiative per second, although some skills and traits can replenish this faster. Thieves have 5 sets of utility skills: Deception, Preparation, Signet, Trick, and Venom. Deception skills focus on blinds, stealth, and mobility, like Hide in the Shadows, which cure conditions, heal, and grant stealth. Or Smokescreen, which blocks enemy ranged attacks and blinds foes. Preparation skills are exclusive to thieves, but function very much like a trap. The thief, however, can activate this trap when they see fit, like Thousand Needles, which immobilizes enemies and poisons them, or Seal Area, which when activated creates an area that blocks projectiles and prevents enemies from leaving or entering. The signets offer passive and active effects, such as Assassin's Signet, which passively increases power, but when activated, massively increases power for a short duration. Or Infiltrator Signet, which passively increases initiative generation, but when activated, teleports you to your foe. Tricks are focused on increasing elusiveness and control of the thief, like Roll for Initiative, which when activated causes the thief to evade backwards, regenerate initiative, and remove crippling, chilled, and immobilizing effects. Or the elite skill Dagger Storm, which causes a flurry of daggers to be thrown out in all directions, bleeding and crippling their targets. Finally, Venom, which adds effects to your next few attacks, like Spider Venom, which applies poison, or the elite skill, Basilisk Venom, which when activated makes your attacks unblockable and turns your foe to stone, stunning them for a short duration. It's important to note that thieves have 2 additional skills included in their base skill set. Stealth attacks, which are high damaging attacks that are only available when they are stealth, or the dual wield ability, which when a thief utilizes 2 one-handed weapons, their 3rd skill button is replaced with a dual wield attack, which is typically very powerful, at the cost of high initiative. Thieves have 5 core trait lines to enhance their skills: Deadly Arts, Critical Strikes, Shadow Arts, Acrobatics, and Trickery. Deadly Arts increases the damage done to low targets as well as focusing on poisoning and dagger skills. Critical Strikes focus on increasing critical strike damage and may enhance pistols and signet skills. Shadow Arts improves stealth and blinds enemies. It also may improve venom and deception skills. Acrobatic focuses heavily on mobility, healing, and dodging. Trickery emphasizes stealing and managing initiative generation. Sample leveling build in the description below. Skilled thieves can utilize a wide range of weapons, which include a short bow, main hand dagger, pistol, and sword. Offhand, they can use a dagger or a pistol. Short bow focuses on mobility and heavy condition damage, with an additional shadow step ability. Main hand dagger inflicts conditions and allows for acrobatic damaging abilities. Pistol main hand leaves foes vulnerable, while sword allows for extra elusiveness and flanking attacks. Offhand pistol is a defensive weapon that allows you to control enemies and retreat out of harm's way. Offhand dagger offers another source of stealth as well as crippling enemies. As a start, I recommend dual pistols for beginning thieves, as it will keep you at range while you are able to damage those foes. As the thief grows in power, I recommend sword dagger in combination with dual pistol, which will offer control, evasiveness, and high damage. Thieves are very reliant on their ability to outmaneuver, stealth, and control enemies, which means in a straight-up fight they are at a disadvantage. When mastered, a thief can completely dispatch an enemy without ever being touched. In PvE content, thieves have plenty of strong roles as damage dealers, offering not only powerful conditions but deadly strikes with their wide variety of weapons. In PvP content, core thieves are still a very strong pick, specifically for their elusiveness and stealth. They function amazingly as a roamer to offset duels and outnumber lone enemies. The Thief has 3 elite specializations, each are tied to the 3 expansions. Heart of Thorn features the Daredevil, Path of Fire features the Deadeye, and End of Dragons features the Spectre. These all will be covered in a future video. Given all the tools and preparation that they have at their disposal, Thieves are the deadliest assassins that Tyria has ever seen. Don't blink. Thieves are gone in an instant, and by that time, it is too late. Dashing with unnatural agility and summoning legends of the past, this ferocious combatant channels otherworldly powers to devastate their enemies. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Revenant, the Invoker of the Mists. Revenant's profession mechanics allow them to invoke legendary champions of the past to enhance their combat capabilities. Revenants can only have 2 legends equipped at any given time. Utilizing abilities will deplete the Revenant's energy bar. This bar regenerates over time, and to master the Revenant means to master energy management. Unique to Revenants, channeling a legend grants them 5 static abilities. These skills are locked and will always be the same when channeling that specific legend. Let's dive into something. Legend, wait for it, Dairy. There are 4 legends that a Revenant can channel. The legendary assassin Shiro Tagachi, the legendary centaur Ventari, the legendary demon Malix the Unyielding, and the legendary dwarf king Jawless Ironhammer. The assassin stance offers powerful offensive focused abilities like phase traversal that teleports you through the mists to an enemy, or the legendary elite skill Jade Winds, which stuns all nearby enemies for a short duration. The Centaur stance grants powerful healing for allies and crowd control on enemies, like Protective Solace that blocks projectiles for a duration, or the elite skill Energy Expulsion, which knocks down nearby enemies and heals nearby allies. The Demon stance inflicts devastating conditions on enemies, like Banish Enchantment, which chills enemies and removes any boons from them, or the elite skill Embrace the Darkness, that transforms you into a powerful avatar tormenting nearby enemies. The Dwarf stance is centered around damage reduction and mitigation, like Vengeful Hammers, which consume energy whilst reducing total damage taken, or the elite skill Rite of the Great Dwarf, that turns yourself as well as allies into stone, reducing all incoming damage. The Revenant has 5 trait lines: Corruption, Retribution, Salvation, Invocation, and Devastation. All except Invocation are related to a specific stance. The Corruption trait lines are focused around conditions and the Demon stance, while Retribution focuses on defensive capabilities and the Dwarf stance. Salvation focuses on healing and support while being centered around the Centaur stance. The Devastation trait lines focuses on damage and lifesteal, and is mainly focused around the Assassin stance. Invocation has an emphasis on critical hits and improving other legendary stances. Sample leveling build linked down below. The weapon choices of the Revenant are as unique as they are. Revenants can use hammers, staves, main hand mace and sword, while offhand is sword and axe. The hammer functions as a ranged weapon and has plenty of defenses that work well with the dwarf stance. The staff synchronizes well with support and defenses, while being closely related to the centaur stance. The main hand mace is effective at medium range and applies a number of conditions, so it fits well with the demon stance, while the main hand sword offers swift strikes and is synonymous with the assassin stance. The offhand axe also works well with the demon stance by applying conditions and even offering a shadow step to an enemy, while the offhand sword emphasizes a strong damage and offensive style. For beginners, I'd recommend the double sword staff combo. The double swords offer plenty of offensive capabilities and mobility, while the staff offers mobility, healing, and cleansing. An advanced build would be centered around mace axe comboed with the hammer, as this requires thoughtful gameplay to manage energy and conditions to bring down enemies. Regardless, the Revenant has a decently strong learning curve, as managing your resources as well as managing your different stances will take time to pick up and play. Open world Revenants thrive as skilled and elusive combatants. They strike fast and hard, bringing their enemies down. Their wealth of defensive capabilities that they can bring either through trait lines or their sustain that they can offer through their stances makes it incredibly strong for them to be out on their own, even though they're not really on their own. In PvE modes, they can function both as a damage dealer or a support, while damage is much more common. Their strong damaging abilities paired with the relentless assault of legendary heroes makes them a worthy pick. In PvP, Double Sword Assassin Revenant still has some viability, although there are more popular Revenant builds that focus on their elite specs. Through swift mobility and damage mitigation, they can handle quite a lot without many issues. The Revenant has 3 elite specializations, each tied to a specific expansion. The Herald for the Heart of Thorns, the Renegade for the Path of Fire, and the Vindicator for the End of Dragons. These will be covered in a later video. While the Revenant may be out on their own, they are never truly without a companion. The legendary champions of Tyria's past offer them a brief glimpse of their power before receding back into the mists again. Watch out, the voices in your head may just be your salvation. Deceiving enemies and putting on a show, this glamorous and cunning magician deserves your applause. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Mesmer, the Illusionary Showstopper. The Mesmer knows how to shock and awe an audience with their shatter skills. The Mesmer has access to 4 skills that synchronize with the amount of illusions that the Mesmer has summoned. When the abilities are activated, they have stronger effects based off of the amount of illusions that were shattered, up to a max of 3. Illusions are at the core of everything a Mesmer is capable of. They summon either a clone or a phantasm to attack and distract enemies. The phantasms are focused on doing damage and are usually tied to weapon skills. They perform their attack and then disappear. When they do disappear, a clone appears at their place. Clones are perfect copies of the Mesmer and last much longer than the phantasm. They serve to distract and confuse enemies. They are relatively weak in both damage and health, but the primary fuel for the shatter abilities. The shatter abilities are Mind Rack, which deals immediate damage to all targets near your clones as well as you. Cry of Frustration that destroys your clones and confuses nearby enemies. Diversion that shatters clones and dazes nearby targets. And Distortion, which grants the Mesmer invulnerability for a short time. These all have independent cooldowns and can be activated without any illusions. Let's talk about skills. The Mesmer has 5 skills available to showcase: Illusion, Glamour, Manipulation, Mantras, and Signets. Illusions are built around confusing enemies and dealing damage, like Decoy, which stealths the Mesmer and summons an illusion to attack your foes, or Mirror Images, which breaks crowd control and summons 2 mirror images to attack your foes. Glamour skills focus on ground fields that help allies and harm enemies, like Feedback, which creates a dome that reflects projectiles, or Time Warp, which grants your allies quickness and slows your enemies immensely. Next is Manipulations. These are skills that are focused around evasiveness and battlefield control, like Blink, which teleports the Mesmer a great distance, or Mass Invisibility, which grants stealth in a massive field around you and your allies. Mantras are instant cast skills that work on an ammo system, like Mantra of Recovery, which instantly heals the Mesmer, and is more powerful if the Mesmer is low on health, or Mantra of Distraction, which dazes nearby enemies. The Signets offer strong passive and powerful active effects, like Signet of Midnight, which passively improves expertise and actively stealths the Mesmer, or Signet of Humility, which passively reduces the effect of crowd control, but actively turns your enemy into a Moa. The trait lines of the Mesmer reflect the main strengths of the Showmaster. There's Domination, Dueling, Chaos, Inspiration, and Illusions. Domination focuses on vulnerability, interrupting targets, and even removing boons from those targets. Dueling emphasizes critical hits as well as improving evasive capabilities of the Mesmer. Chaos focuses on defenses and condition damage, as well as improving boon duration. Inspiration emphasizes defensive supportive skills and healing. Illusions focus fully on your shatter abilities, reducing their recharge and increasing their effects. Sample leveling build link down below. The Mesmer has a unique approach to utilizing weapons, as they are not always what they seem to be. Mesmers can use great swords, staves, main hand they can use scepters and swords, and offhand they can utilize focuses, pistols, swords, and torches. Great swords attack at long range with strong area of effect damage and powerful phantasms to damage foes. Staves are long-ranged and focus mostly on defensives and repositioning. The scepter is a medium-ranged weapon and attacks quickly. It can also block attacks and inflict damaging conditions, while the main hand sword engages in melee quickly and offers some evasion. The offhand focus improves your movement speed and slows enemies, while the pistol deals great damage with their phantasms and can even disable enemies. The offhand sword blocks attacks and deals significant damage to enemies in melee with their phantasm. And then the offhand torch offers blind, stealth, and burning, and their phantasm can burn, confuse, and even interrupt enemies. For beginners, I recommend the greatsword with double swords. This offers great range through the greatsword, as well as awesome defenses through the double swords. As the Mesmer grows in strength, I recommend the staff paired with the scepter and focus, as the condition damage and control makes handling a number of enemies a breeze. Mesmers are right at home, causing chaos across the battlefields. The core Mesmer's ability to summon illusions make it difficult for enemies in the open world to attack the correct one. Their strong kit of blocks, elusiveness, and stealth make them incredibly challenging to bring down. In PvE, they function fantastically as a damage dealer with some supportive capabilities. Their utilization of phantasms and movement capabilities give them an edge in almost any situation. In PvP, the core Mesmer is still an incredibly strong pick with their strong single target damage and their elusive kit. Enemies will have a headache trying to figure out who to attack, and by that time they're dazed and confused. The Mesmer has 3 elite specializations, each tied to a specific expansion. The Heart of Thorns has the Chronomancer, the Path of Fire has the Mirage, and the End of Dragons has the Virtuoso. These will all be covered in a later video. Dashing and dancing, dodging and evading, the Mesmer brings illusion and elusiveness together in one powerful package. Whether it is from range or on front row seats, the Showstopper always has a performance for you. Careful, a true Mesmer always has friends nearby. Adapting to their environment and summoning wild beasts to their aid, this survivalist is built to handle any situation with their connection through nature. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Ranger, the Lone Wanderer. The Ranger's profession mechanic is their loyal companions. The Ranger can tame wild animals to fight with them in combat. These can range anywhere from spiders to wolves, even to ferocious drakes. Each pet has a unique ability and is tied to a specific family, which categorizes your pets. Refer to the link in the description below to see further information. Rangers can have 2 pets available at any given time, while only 1 can be active. Let's talk about skills. The Rangers utilize 5 skill types for their commune with the wilds: Command, Signets, Survival, Spirits, and Traps. Commands are orders given to their pets for offensive and defensive purposes, such as Protect Me, which grants protection and barrier, or the wildly popular Sick'em, where your pet rushes an enemy and deals increased damage for a short period of time. Signets offer strong passive and powerful active effects, like the Signet of Stone, which passively increases your toughness, and actively makes you immune to damage for a short period of time. Or Signet of the Hunt, which increases your movement speed passively, and actively, you and your pet's attacks become unblockable. Survival skills are aimed at keeping the ranger alive and turning the tides within a fight. Skills like lightning reflexes, which causes you to evade backwards, dealing damage and gaining vigor, or the elite skill, entangle, which roots and bleeds all nearby enemies. Spirits are unique to rangers, as they are beings of support and defense for the ranger and their allies, such as the Stone Spirit, which passively grants protection and actively teleports to the ranger, immobilizing and crippling nearby foes. Or the Spirit of Nature, which heals allies and can even revive downed friendlies. Traps are cunning abilities that will make foes think twice about challenging the ranger, like the Spike Trap, that when stepped on, launches the foes and causes bleeding, or the Viper's Nest, which when stepped on releases a number of poisonous snakes. Let's talk about the trade lines. The core trade lines of the Ranger is Marksmanship, Skirmishing, Wilderness Survival, Nature Magic, and Beast Mastery. Marksmanship focuses on high power damage and increasing the effects of the longbow. Skirmishing focuses on critical hits, as well as improving strike and condition damage. Wilderness Survival focuses heavily on defense and protection from conditions, while Nature Magic emphasizes supportive abilities through healing and boon generation. Of course, Beast Mastery has an emphasis on improving pets' damage and their capabilities. Sample leveling build linked in the description below. Any ranger worth their salt has a number of weapons at their disposal to assist with any wild problem they may have. They can use great swords, longbows, short bows, main hand axe and sword, offhand axe, dagger, torch, and warhorn. The greatsword is a deceptively evasive weapon with strong burst and good defenses, while the longbow is extremely powerful at long range with fast strikes and AoE. The shortbow focuses on condition damage, movements, and evasive positioning. The main hand axe is utilized as a thrown weapon and can throw multiple axes at once, whereas the sword is very mobile and evasive, while also dealing strong condition damage. The offhand axe can reflect incoming attacks and throw more axes, while the dagger has a crippling ranged attack and can deal incredible condition damage. The torch deals strong burn damage and AoE, while the warhorn buffs allies and deals damage over time. I recommend for all players to utilize the greatsword paired with the longbow. Both deal incredible strike damage and are one of the most viable weapon combinations for the entire profession. The Ranger quite literally is built for the open world. Utilizing their pets and evasive maneuvers, they can tackle any foe with great ease. In PvE, Rangers thrive as damage dealers, mainly, with some supportive capabilities. PvP can still utilize the core Ranger build, Valkyrie, which is insanely effective at most skill levels. A small note is that sometimes pet control can be a bit challenging. However, utilizing and understanding what your pet can do can easily dispatch enemies and enemy players alike. The Ranger has 3 elite specializations, each tied to a specific expansion. The Heart of Thorns has the Druid, the Path of Fire has the Soul Beast, and End of Dragons has the Untamed. These will all be covered in a later video. With their animal companion, the Ranger is at home when adapting to any and all situations. Between traps, survival skills, and a vicious companion, a true Ranger is born for the wilds. Don't ever be fooled. All those who wander are not always lost. Decimating foes and brutalizing enemies, this raging combatant holds nothing back. Welcome to the Guild Wars 2 Profession Spotlight, featuring the Warrior, the Furious Gladiator. The Warrior's profession mechanic is adrenaline. As the Warrior deals and takes damage, they build up adrenaline. Once they have enough, they can utilize a burst ability. This ability has stronger effects for however many bars of adrenaline the Warrior has. The ability changes depending on the weapon the Warrior is utilizing, like the Greatsword's ability, Arcing Slice, which deals high damage in an area around the Warrior, or the Hammer's Earthshaker ability, which stuns all nearby enemies to point of impact. Once these burst abilities are utilized, all of the adrenaline is drained from the Warrior, and then they start the cycle again. Let's talk about skills. Being a martial and skilled fighter, the warrior has 5 skill categories that they can employ: banners, shouts, physical, signets, and stances. Banners are summoned areas of benefit for the warrior and their allies that pulse boons, like Banner of Defense, which grants barriers and boons on placement, then pulses more boons during its duration, or the Elite Banner, Battle Standard, which upon landing finishes foes and revives downed allies. Shouts provide a variety of effects, from boons to condition cleansing, and even inflicting fear. Skills like For Great Justice, that grants might and fury to yourself and nearby allies, or On My Mark, which marks a target and inflicts vulnerability. Physical skills emphasize crowd control on enemies, like Kick, which pushes foes backwards a distance, or Bull's Charge, where the warrior sprints to their foes and knocks them down. Signets offer strong passive and powerful active effects, like Signet of Might, which passively improves power, or actively causes your attacks to be unblockable and grant you might. Stances provide positive effects for a short duration, like Defiant Stance, that heals the warrior and heals them for more as they take damage during its duration, or Endure Pain, which for a short time makes you immune to all strike damage. Let's talk about trait lines. The warrior's trait lines emphasize their need for close quarters combat. They have strength, arms, defense, tactics, and discipline. Strength emphasizes brute force and physicality. Arms focuses on critical hits and heavy condition damage. Defense emphasizes surviving attacks and mitigating damage. Tactics focuses on ally support and improving shouts. Discipline promotes weapon swapping and adrenaline generation. Sample leveling build linked below. Like any good combatant, warriors can utilize the absolute most weapons that any profession can in-game. The weapons they can use are greatswords, hammers, longbows, rifles, main hand axes, maces, swords, offhand, warhorn, shield, axe, mace, and sword. Greatswords offer massive strike damage and fantastic movement capabilities. Hammers emphasize weakening enemies and controlling them. Longbow focuses heavily on condition damage and burning. A rifle strikes a single target with high burst damage. Main hand axe attacks swiftly and generates a lot of adrenaline. Main hand mace is a defensive weapon, blocking attacks and weakening enemies. Main hand sword offers great mobility and significant bleeding. Offhand axe attacks enemies with both weapons and spins rapidly, damaging multiple foes at once. Offhand mace crushes armor and knocks down foes. Offhand sword throws the sword at range and can also block attacks. Shields can stun enemies and block attacks for duration. Warhorn grants significant boons and ally support. There are many different weapon combinations for the warrior to utilize. For beginners, I recommend the greatsword paired with axe shield, as this offers significant strike damage between the axe and the greatsword and some defenses through the shield. For a more advanced build, greatsword paired with double axe is very aggressive and, if played appropriately, can be devastating. There isn't a single place where core warriors don't thrive. In open world, their ferocious attacks and self-healing capabilities make them a strong choice. Not to mention that they have significantly higher base toughness than other professions. In PvE, warriors offer a lot through damage, as well as support through shouts and banners. In PvP, core warriors can still be deadly, as they have plenty of options for defense and counterattacks. The warrior has 3 elite specializations, each tied to a specific expansion. The Heart of Thorns features the Berserker, the Path of Fire features the Spellbreaker, and the End of Dragons features the Blade Swarm. These will all be covered in a future video. Physically bending foes into submission with their flurry of attacks and devastating brute force, the warrior is especially made for those who can overcome any obstacle through sheer force of will.